Yes.
Hi everyone, this is Didi.
And I am Fred. And this is our 36-foot floating home sunshine.
Join us as we go sailing.
Hello everyone. It's a bit after 3 o'clock in the afternoon local time on the 2nd of June 2023. Well, here's the intrepid crew and the vessel Sunshine eking our way westward towards the Seychelles. Yesterday, June 1st, shall go down in memory as an absolute horrible day. Around sunrise, we were barely moving, just barely holding steerage way. And I spied out in front of us a huge black squall line. And of course, had no choice but to keep going towards it, because it lay in our path towards the Seychelles. Anyway, as the day progressed and we got closer, sometimes those squall lines don't amount to too much. A little wind, maybe a sprinkly of rain, sometimes a little more rain or a little more wind. But in the past, haven't amounted to too much. This one, however, was different. It was a full-blown storm from the west, right on the nose. As we entered the cloud wall, the wind started to shoot up, got up 25 knots after a little while, pouring rain. So of course, the head sails got backed because the wind shifted from south-southwest to west, and the boat immediately turned around and started heading off to the east. Well, with the wind from the west blowing that strong, I couldn't even get the boat to go south. The best we could do was just kind of drift with the wind. As time passed, it got stronger, probably getting gusts up in the 35 knot range. But mostly it was blowing 25 or thereabouts, with occasional bouts of pouring rain. And when the wind started getting stronger and lasting longer when it was blowing stronger, I had already dropped the storm jib, which we were flying with the staysail as a mainsail. I dropped the staysail also because I didn't want to blow the sail out in a strong wind. Well, of course, that made conditions aboard absolutely horrid, because we got this big swell chop coming in from the west on the face of the storm, and the residual swell coming up from the south from the previous south wind. And we bounced and bobbed and bounced and bobbed and rolled like crazy for some time. And I said, oh, can't keep doing this. So Didi and I, in our banana suits, our sperm suits are worn out, but we got some banana suits, yellow plastic suits, back in somewhere in Malaysia, I believe. Anyway, we went up on the foredeck and rehoisted the storm jib on the staysail stay. Try cut the rolling down. Well, it helped a little, but not really enough. But I didn't want to risk the staysail yet because the wind was still gusting up pretty strong. So we just continued to flop along. By the time it all got done, we had lost Well, a little bit later when the rain stopped, I put up the staysail again, and we got the boat turned around because the wind had shifted back in a more southerly direction, trying to get the boat going. But we had lost not quite a whole day's westing, more than half a day's westing in a matter of 4 or 5 hours. Boy, was I despondent. And of course the waves were just crazy, bouncing us all over the place from different directions. And so we just kept limping along because eventually, of course, the squall line passed, continued to build as it passed us in the east. So it was no longer a concern to us. But as typical after a squall or storm like that, the wind died almost completely. And we were just kind of flopping along to the northwest. Couldn't get the boat to point up because there was no wind. And it just went through the night like that. I had to sit down here, folks. Anyway, this morning I was up a little bit before sunrise. Poor Dee Dee was zonked out on the cabin stall next to the engine room, which is the place of least motion on the boat. She passed out pretty dead to the world for about 4 hours, which was very good because she really needed a good long sleep like that. Anyway, I sat in here in the cockpit trying to figure out what the heck was going on. The wind had come back up a little bit, but it was like the boat was dragging an anchor through the water, and I thought, I wonder if we picked up one of those fishing nets or something. And the drag from it is slowing us down horribly. But I couldn't see any evidence of anything trailing behind the boat in the water. And I started looking things over, and I realized that I hadn't reset the mainsail. I had the main sheet to leeward and the bag to windward, and the mainsail was actually, the staysail acting as a mainsail, was actually backed a little bit, so it was acting like a big brake. So I reset the main sheet over to windward, reset the bang over to leeward, eased the boom off, which eased the sail. Bingo, instant improvement in responsiveness in the boat. And the wind continued to build. So now the staysail, storm jib acting as a staysail, I eased the sheet a bit on that as well. So now we had some drive and the boat was moving better and not just drifting off to the northeast. So I looked at what was going on with steering. Well, as it turned out, to get the boat to point up into the wind, I had cranked 2 spokes on the wheel that turns the main rudder, trying to get that boat to head up into the wind. But I hadn't been paying much attention to the autopilot, which controls the auxiliary rudder. And it was trying to steer the boat to starboard. So I had the auxiliary rudder trying to steer one way and the main rudder trying to steer the other way. Effectively making a big flying wedge between the 2 rudders, also adding a lot to the drag and reduced speed of the boat. So I played with all that and got the boat back to going well, and the wind continued to increase. And now you can see by the sea state, it's probably blown a good solid 15 now. And with my much reduced rig here, with the staysail acting as a mainsail and the storm jib acting as a staysail and the Yankee, the boat is balanced. The helm is neutral, and the autopilot is working very little to keep the boat on course. Now, of course, I could use the wind vane instead of the autopilot, but I'm much more interested in maintaining the compass course than I am in maintaining a course relative to the apparent wind direction. So, since sometime this morning when the wind started to build, we actually started getting going again. Now, to couple all that together, for some reason yesterday also. The GPS antenna, which is hooked to the AIS unit, seemed not to be transmitting a single signal to the AIS unit, which processes that information and sends it to the navigation program on my laptop. So it would cut out, the little icon would cut out, and it would stop showing our position. Well, I'm not transmitting on the AIS transponder, because in reality, we haven't seen a ship out here in 3 or 4 days. We did see another buoy. It seemed to be an escape buoy from the fishing fleet back to the east, but of course that's not a concern. And I only saw it on the AIS. We didn't see it physically. We've seen one physically. It looked like about a 25-liter fuel container all wrapped up in an old net and attached to one end of a long line, I believe. And that was the transmitter for the AIS for the net. And that's flow pretty well below the surface, so there's not a danger of ships getting caught up in them, and certainly not sailboats, although we did get caught in one. I believe the reason for that was the fishing boat to which it was attached was retrieving the long line and pulled it up closer to the surface. Speculation on my part. Anyway, with any luck at all, our noon to noon run from today to tomorrow may actually slightly exceed 100 miles. Be only maybe the second or third time on this entire passage that we had over 100-mile day. And I'll tell you, it's been miserable, folks. We passed 2 weeks on Tuesday on this passage. And I can't tell you how many days we're making 40 and 50 miles because the wind was so light. Just enough to maintain steerage. Anyway, the wind's quite a bit stronger now, but it's certainly shifted more to the southwest, like a regular southwest monsoon wind. And the problem with that, of course, is that our course is about somewhere around 245 to the Seychelles, and I'm averaging about 280 or 285. That's as close as I can get to the wind, given the conditions and the sails that I have. So somewhere or another, we're going to have to make up a bunch of southing. Unfortunately, during our little storm, and as a precursor to that, with the wind shifting, it probably lost about 30 miles to the north. We were almost down to 2 degrees south, and now we're back up around 1 degree 25 minutes south. So somehow, as we get closer, if we get another real calm day, I'll maybe use 1 jug of our emergency standby fuel and stick the nose due south and head that way for a day. Try to get back to the south, or we're going to have to wait, depending on what conditions do, until we get a lot closer, and then maybe just drop the head sails and go with the stay sail and the motor. Try and get the boat to point up as much as possible to head towards the Seychelles. Or possibly we'll have to sail past the Seychelles, go on the other tack and sail back kind of in the southeast direction towards the Seychelles. Because I think on the other tack I can make about 150 degrees, maybe, with the southwest wind. Anyway, I got to tell you folks, my experience of this Indian Ocean crossing has been, for the most part, absolutely miserable. For some reason, the southwest monsoon seemed to start in the middle of March instead of now, at the end of May and the beginning of June, which it normally would do. We should be getting southeasterlies, or even easterlies, in this area, according to the pilot chart. Well, other than about a day and a half worth, I haven't seen any wind east of south since we started. And that's, didn't expect to get that until we got south of the equator, but that's been also very frustrating. Would love to be sitting here with a 15 knot southeasterly blowing us right down our course line to reach our destination. Hopefully by noon tomorrow we'll be under 500 miles left to go. But at the speed we're going, that's another 5 days minimum. Anyway, that's it for now. Just to let you know what's going on